Today we've prepared the top 4 cavalry combos at the legendary tier in Rise of Kingdoms. So if you were wondering what the very best combinations and talents are for fighting in the open field with your calves, you've come to the right place. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisco Gaming, a sponsored content creator for Rise of Kingdoms, and today we are going to lean on our extensive experience playing with cavalry commanders, literally every single one that has been in the game, to talk about where they are the strongest, which pairs are the very best, and to give some of the talents that we would recommend. Now, if you want to jump to any part of this video, use the timestamps in the description. I like to talk about all the thought that went into my decisions, so if you want to jump to the conclusions, just jump to the conclusions. With that said, if you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the commanders that unfortunately don't make this list at all. Legendary cavalry commanders. They are fine commanders, but they don't make the list. The first one is Double C. Great for barbs, okay for players in the early game. Yeah, if you want to use them as a primary and run around and kill gatherers, that's fine. But I'm talking about proper open field brawls, big fights, Ark of Osiris fights. Double C just doesn't make the muster, in part because he's reducing his own defense, and that is just not going to work for big brawls. He's too squishy, and in the early game, he's fine. In the late game, he just doesn't make the cut. Similarly, Minamoto, you know, he's got skills that when you're in the early game seem great. 10% march speed and 20% attack. You'd think that's good enough, but in the late game, it doesn't quite cut it. Both of those commanders that we've just talked about now have a skill for barbing, and honestly, you don't need that for the open field. In addition, Minamoto is a commander that you've got to purchase. He's fine for barbs, just not for open field brawls. The next commander you're not going to see in this list, and it's unfortunate, is Khan. These are the top 4 pairs. Keep in mind, I'm not saying Khan is terrible in the open field. He's not. But the problem with Khan, just like Double C, is that he's way too squishy. When I see a Khan, I focus it down. And that is because, in part, the Khan is going to be slowed down when it's put in combat. It can't get away. And then you just beat the snot out of it because it doesn't have any defensive capability. Khan is a fine commander. But with the addition of other commanders into the game, he is now much more focused on PvE content rather than being a top-tier, open-field, brawling commander. He is a fine commander. He is not a terrible cavalry commander. And honestly, you could swap him into some of these pairs. He would be better than the Double C. He'd be better than the Minamoto to use in the meantime. But he doesn't make the cut for the absolute top tier. Now, before we get into our top 4 list, I do also want to give an honorable mention pairing. And that honorable mention pairing, and this is a pair I don't think most players should go for, which is why I didn't even include it in the list, but it is a pair that I myself am looking at. It's, curiously enough, a Chandragupta pair with William. You may be thinking, Chisco, Chandragupta with William, why would you pair these two? The reason you would pair them is because among the cavalry, they are honestly at the very top for being team-oriented, buffing and debuffing. Chandragupta is going to be reducing the target's defense and health by 15%. That is really quite exceptional. People have been losing their mind over the concealed dagger. Well, this is the concealed dagger and a better version of Mora's Web, like wrapped into one. Yeah. Chandragupta's skill here is really quite good if you're going to swarm down a target. And in that vein, if you're swarming something down, it's hard to beat William. William is absolutely, unequivocally top tier. William is going to be giving you some huge buffs if you hit multiple targets with his AoE. People forget that he is also removing skill damage buffs from the targets that he's hitting, and he's doing extra skill damage when you're swarming stuff. Yeah. Gupta with William is a totally legit pair, especially in Ark of Osiris if you're swarming down structures. But I give it the honorable mention because I don't actually think most players should be shooting for something like that. It's a much more advanced combination because that pair is not very survivable. And if you're not careful, it's honestly just going to get wrecked, which is not where you want to be. That's quite the repair bill. So with all of that said, let's talk about our top 4. That's not to say that there aren't other combinations, but These are the 4 combinations I would recommend to literally anyone who says, hey, Chisco, what should I use if I want to go all in calves? Now, the first pair I'm going to mention, number 4 in the list, is a Saladin primary, and it's actually not even going to be a cavalry commander as the secondary. It's an E-Song. A part of the reason I recommend this pair is that the Saladin is going to give you the tankiness and the cav stats you need. He's going to give you talents that are amazingly tanky and reducing skill damage taken. All of that is exactly what E-Song wants to hide behind, so that he can do lots of skill damage but not get targeted first in the field. So using that Saladin paired with E-Song is a great way to safely bring your E-Song into combat. People will figure out that he's there and they'll start to target him. But the other thing I really like about that combination is that Saladin generates tons of rage, which means your E-Song is going to be using his active skill very, very frequently. Also, E-Song generates rage himself. That pairing is really quite solid. I've gotten a lot of value from that pairing in the field. In addition, it is worth mentioning that Saladin is slowing targets and reducing their healing. I love everything about what this combination is doing. If you're looking for a build, this would be what I would recommend, taking these points in the Conquering Tree to further reduce the counterattack damage that you're taking, so that honestly, if people aren't targeting you, you're not going to be taking very much damage. You reduce skill damage and counterattack damage a ton. With that said, if you wanted an alternate build, I called this the no escape build because you've got a little bit more rage gen, which feels a little excessive at this point for this pairing, and also a march speed ability that is not good for running away, but is good for chasing down targets. I personally use this build. I think it's the better of the two, but keep this build in mind because Saladin is all over this top tier list. In fact, we should go to the number 3 pairing in this list now, and that pairing is going to be Saladin, again, primary commander, with a Takeda secondary. Takeda and Saladin are honestly a match made in heaven. The Saladin doesn't particularly care about skill damage, and Takeda, conveniently enough, doesn't either. He's doing normal attack damage boosts and really focused on that. The other thing that I really like about the Takeda is that he has healing. This is a big deal. Saladin is very tanky. Pair that with healing, and suddenly you have a march with incredible sustain. The other thing I really like is that this march gives a lot of deterrent for even attacking it in the first place. It reduces normal attack damage, counterattack damage, skill damage. It's got 40% cavalry defense. It's also got march speed and attack. I love everything about this pairing. You can use the Saladin Takeda to navigate around the field, debuff, stay for a very long time. It's great for altar and ruins battles. It's mighty fine in open field brawls because you're probably not going to get targeted. They shouldn't focus on you. This is a really solid pairing, and there is a little bit of variation you could start to do with the Saladin talent builds if you wanted, now that you're bringing a commander that is doing some healing. One option that you have will be to drop 3 points in over here to Elixir. So you could get Elixir, increase your healing a little bit, and also increase your rage gen, or you'll actually have just enough points to drop 3 points in to the Elixir, 1 point in to the health of all troops, and 3 points in to get the extra attack when you've been healed. That seems like a really great combination. Everything about this pair is a match made in heaven, but of course there is a better Takeda pairing, and that is going to be, obviously, with the Attila primary, and this clocks in as the number 2 combination for cavalry. Attila is a monster. He is actually reducing the attack of the enemy by 50%. It is a fantastic debuff for the open field. He also is going to be increasing the damage that you deal, and also, honestly, reduces the skill damage you take only by 15%, but still, when combined with Takeda, it's very tanky, very survivable. People will regret targeting your Attila Takeda, which gives you free reign to basically run around and hit whatever the heck you want. Now, I've got a full guide detailing the very best talents for Attila, but I'll flash up onto the screen an open field build that I would highly recommend, which is this one right over here. One other build you could get a look at if you think you're going to be in fights for longer periods of time is to go and pick up Effortless. I think this is unlikely. However, I would stick with this build right over here for pure open field goodness. And you can see the build I'm using now is actually much more oriented toward hitting garrisons, either with a swarm or a rally. The final pairing that we have today, clocking in at number 1. And it shouldn't be a surprise to folks because you will see this all over the battlefield, all over top tier Canyon teams. And that is Saladin, again, paired with William. Man, it is just such an amazing team-oriented combination to have that Saladin William. I forgot, my William is leveled up to 60, a thing I would not actually recommend, although I've done a bunch of testing to demonstrate that. The Saladin William pairing is fantastic. William brings those huge team buffs. He deals huge damage toward targets that are getting swarmed. Perfect. Saladin prevents them from getting away, and you're hiding your William behind the Saladin. Even people, they know to look at the Saladin now, but you're reducing the counterattack skill damage you take very significantly, so it gives William the ability to actually survive long enough to do some work on the field. I love this pairing. I'm using it personally. I can't imagine not using it anytime soon. This is literally one of the very best legendary combinations you can use in the game at this moment. It is just that strong to be giving rage and also defense to nearby allies, even though this will only hit a grand total of 5 marches. That means it's even more important for more people to be bringing this combination of commanders because those buffs are just that good. Now, I personally have a hard time envisioning I would graduate from this. I'm toying around with the idea of using that Gupta-William pairing, but for now, Saladin William is most certainly the king in the open field, and I mention this in part because very, very soon, all kingdoms that have completed KVK Season 3 can choose what comes from Mightiest Governor. They can choose what comes from the Wheel of Fortune. This is a big deal. Now more than ever, players could go the route of expertising their E-Song, which everybody still should do, even if you want to be a Cav player. From there, you can either unlock Saladin from Mightiest Governor and either expertise him or take him to 5-5-5-1. If you don't get him from Mightiest Governor, you'll be able to get him from Card King at about the time that you'll be able to switch your Wheel of Fortune, I assume, to go and get William, which means you could then work right away on that Saladin-William combination and really enjoy the benefits that bestows to your team in the open field. This is by far the #1 cavalry combo. I'm certainly open, however, to any ideas and alternatives that you have, again, for the open field. There are other combinations that I personally am using for full disclosure. For instance, in Canyon, I played around, as I mentioned, with a William primary, but landed, if you can believe it, on a Ethelfled primary with a William secondary. I know, but it works. Oh, and it works so well. But Canyon, that's not the game mode we were talking about in this video. If you did enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here, consider subscribing for those daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. I'll have a link up top for an old video that I did for more information on cavalry pairings that it's just kind of interesting to look back and see how things have evolved over time. This is why I'm making this new version of the video, because a lot has changed, and I'm pretty happy with these recommendations. Until next time, my friends, you have fun smashing the kingdom.